For more than 40 years, the Perini family and their legendary steakhouse have been feeding Texans the best beef in the entire world. Since his early days as a chuck wagon cook, Tom Perini has been sharing the excellent culinary history and traditions that have shaped the legend of Texas.
I just want to congratulate my good friends Tom and Lisa Perini on 4 outstanding decades of serving amazing, great Texas food. What started as a cattle operation in a small restaurant in beautiful Buffalo Gap, Texas, has now turned into an amazing, iconic brand, one of Texas's best restaurants.
Tom and Lisa have been ambassadors for our great state, sharing their amazing steak with presidents, celebrities, television hosts, and everyday Texans who visit their steakhouse in Buffalo Gap. Texas is home to the world's best beef, the best ranchers, the best farmers, and the best restaurateurs. The cattle and produce that we grow right here in Texas feeds the entire world. And no one has been a better champion of that excellence than Tom and Lisa Perini. Thank you for more than 40 years of service to Texas. And here's hoping that Texans can enjoy Perini Ranch excellence for years to come.
I'm honored to call you my friends, and I do need some more steak rub. So please send me some more, and congratulations on 4 fantastic decades.
May God bless you, and may God forever bless the great state of Texas.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Rafe Hargrove, and I'm a proud, longtime sponsor of TSCRA. My family has lived in the community of Rotan, Texas for over 125 years. We could have found greener grass, but we call it home. Since 2006, I've been blessed to meet and work with ranchers across the Southwest and evaluating the pasture and livestock insurance programs offered through USDA. Today, I'm incredibly honored to introduce our speakers for today's general session, Tom and Lisa Perini. The Perini Ranch in Buffalo Gap is legendary for exceptional food and outstanding service. I know firsthand their ribeyes, green chili hominy, peppered beef tenderloin, and cookbooks are simply unmatched. Rudyard Kipling once wrote about the virtues of adulthood. If you can walk with kings without losing the common touch. Tom and Lisa Perini exemplify this value. A suit-wearing businessman who wanted to open up a steakhouse once asked Tom, "How do you make it look authentic?" He answered, "I don't. It just is." Together, they have fed presidents. They were in D.C. preparing for the congressional picnic on September 11th, 2001. Returning to cater in 2002. They have been featured on Good Morning America, won the best hamburger on the Today Show, and their beef tenderloin was named Best Christmas Gift by the New York Times. While we know them for these many accomplishments, most importantly, Tom and Lisa Perini have traveled the world in tireless support of U.S. beef. No one brings together a community quite like Lisa and Tom Perini. They are as authentic as a Texas sunset, and we are honored to have them here today. At this time, I would like to introduce this afternoon's host, Deborah Ferguson from NBC5.
Thank you very much, Rafe. I appreciate that. You said some wonderful things about Lisa and Tom Perini, and that's, of course, what we're going to get to here in a little bit. But first, I want to just spend a couple minutes introducing myself to you because my guess is a lot of you are from out of town and you may not know anything about Deborah Ferguson nor NBC5. Okay, I have 1 or 2 people in there. I'm a first-time attendee at the Texas and Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association. Any other first-time attendees? Oh, yes, thank you very much. And then I know my husband's here too, a first-time attendee, so thank you. We all need cheerleaders in our camp. Let me say to all of you all, welcome to my hometown. My roots in Texas are not planted as deep as some of yours, but Fort Worth is home, and it is the city that nurtured me and helped my dreams of becoming a reporter become a reality. While we do not have the hard generational work of ranching and farming in common, here's what we do have: early to rise, early to bed. My work as the morning anchor at NBC5 has me up by 1 o'clock in the morning to get to the newsroom. And then, if I'm lucky, I'm in bed by 6. We share this too: a passion for what we do, a determination to keep it going, a love for the people who are part of our journeys, and who doesn't love a great steak? I think we all do. Years ago, I was fortunate enough to have Tom and Lisa Perini cross my path. Wonderful meals and family celebrations at the restaurant, interviews for stories on NBC5, the Buffalo Gap Food and Wine Summit, a chance encounter at the Marathon Hotel for a book tour. We've had fun conversations alongside good food and good wine through the years. Earlier in 2024, I got a text from Lisa. It said, this is all it said: "I have a project for us." Well, of course, I was going to say yes. Who says no to Lisa Perini? And this is what I said yes to being here with you today to celebrate this legendary duo who put tiny Buffalo Gap, Texas on the map, who has served beef to ranchers and presidents and celebrities, and to families who just want a good meal of real Texas food. Please welcome to the stage the legendary owners of Perini Ranch Steakhouse, Lisa and Tom Perini.
Hi, you're so cute.
Hi, step up to the table.
How fun. Are you making dinner?
You don't want me to make dinner. It would not be good. And besides, who would try to make dinner for you all? Only the very brave, right? Have a seat at the table. It may not be, quite as ranchy as what you're used to.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be awesome because you're here, and we've got some wonderful things in store for you all, and also we have some wonderful things in store for all the people who are here at the table with us. We're just having a tough time seeing them. Just a tough time. So, how are you feeling? Did you see the tributes?
I heard it. I'm saying, who was that man?
The voices can be, a little bit, yes. You had Paul Ryan giving you congratulations, and I think he said he needs some more of the rub. I think I heard him say that. And then, of course, you had Texas Governor Greg Abbott, too, hoping that God blesses you all and God bless the great state of Texas as well.
Pretty fancy.
Yes, pretty fancy. You really run with some heavy people, don't you? Some big-time people.
We have. We've been very fortunate.
And congratulations. 4 decades of a business that has seen incredible success. So I'm wondering, are you at the part, have you gotten past the, why did I do this, to, I'm glad we're still doing it?
Every day is both of those conversations.
Sure.
No, it's been a great ride. I mean, when you think about it, 40 years, that's tough. Of course, I was 10. You realize when I started that.
I knew it had to be something like that, Tom. I knew that, yes. But you're from West Texas,
Abilene.
I guess, through Italy. Italy was kind of where the whole Perini thing started, right? Okay.
Right on the Swiss-Italian border.
And on the Swiss-Italian border. You came a long way from your roots.
Well, not quite, but my father and grandfather did.
And here you are, where you have run a restaurant, you're celebrating 4 decades, and where you have people along the likes of this man congratulating you. Greetings to those gathered in Fort Worth, Texas for the 2024 Cattle Raisers Convention and Expo. Laura and I are delighted you are paying tribute to our friends, Lisa and Tom Perini, on the 40th anniversary of Perini Ranch Steakhouse. I get hungry thinking about the wonderful meals I've eaten prepared by Lisa and Tom Perini. Their delicious food has been part of many important events in my life, from the congressional picnic at the White House, countless events for our nation's wounded warriors, and to my 70th birthday. We've been proud to serve Perini Ranch cooking to our guests. Lisa and Tom, congratulations on this special milestone. Here's to many more years of success. To the cattle raisers in attendance, thank you for your hard work and dedication to raising and providing beef to our citizens. We appreciate your continual efforts to improve the industry and sustain our way of life. We pray for the Panhandle ranchers whose livelihoods were destroyed by the wildfires. Best wishes for a memorable and meaningful convention. Signed, George W. Bush.
Good. Now,
bet.
may I have a copy of that? No, I don't mean right now, but I would like to have one.
Yes, well, we can work it out. He can work. You know, he's just up the road in Dallas. I'll give him a
Yeah,
call.
that's
Hey,
right.
get over here. So I knew Tom way back in the 3rd grade that I wanted to be a reporter. I mean, it was my dream, and here I am. I'm living this dream. But if I know part of your story right, your dreams of living the good life really meant getting out of Abilene, away from the family ranch at Buffalo Gap. So what pulled you back in?
Well, actually, my father died, but I was in Dallas. And you know, when you're raised in a town like Abilene, that is the first thing you want to do is get out.
Too small.
So my mother called, excuse me, and said, "You need to come home." My 2 brothers were in college. I was in Dallas having a good time. And so
You want to elaborate on that? Sorry.
No.
Okay.
No, but I came home, and her instructions were that I was supposed to take care of the ranch for the family.
Okay.
And she said, it's not big enough to make a living, so you've got to do something else besides that.
She really set you up well, didn't she?
Well, she did, but the ranch is only a section, so you can't run enough cattle to do that. But so that's what happened. And then I really didn't know what to do, but I had a lot of friends in the cattle business. Mm-hmm. And so I decided that that's what I was going to be, was a rancher. And so we leased some country up in Stanford, Texas, 7,000 acres. Now, I didn't know anything about cattle. And so I really thought of being a cowboy. And I thought if you buy the best horse, the best saddle, you know, the best hat, the best spurs, you would be a cowboy.
Yes.
That was
Not
the
that
first
easy?
lesson I learned in a hard way that had nothing to do with it. Because ranching is, you know, when you can look out in 100 head of cattle and you can see one that has its head up a little high, that's when you know what you're doing. And so that's what I started doing. Uh-huh. But in the early days, we had a chuck wagon. I'd done some work with a friend of ours, Cliff Tyner, and he had a catering business. And so I ended up with a chuck wagon, and I would find out that the cowboys working cattle, and I would be over cooking lunch. That's really what I enjoyed doing. Okay. And so this is how it all started. And so over, you know, this was 18 years. Mm-hmm. And in that time period, I mean, we cooked for big ranches. A lot of the big ranches, their chuck wagons were gone. They were either put up in barns or whatever. And so they would call us. We had cowboys. And so we would serve 1,000 people for a horse sale. And so by doing that, it generated a little cash flow to help my other operation. Mm-hmm. And so that's really kind of how it all started.
Just cooking for the cowboys.
And, you know, horse people that were buying. So it was a good education.
So you're still trying to, you have these 7,000 acres, right? And you're still trying to be this cowboy, but yet you're also kind of pulled into this cooking business. You can't do both. At some point, you had to make a choice.
Well,
I would assume.
That is true. Uh-huh. But I mean, I ranched for 18 years mm-hmm. and loved it. And the one thing that changed it, I just stayed, you know, I had a living, but I was not paying the debt back.
That's a problem, yeah.
It is a problem. So one of my dear friends, Watt Matthews, was a friend of the family's, and I'd catered for him a lot of his parties. I went to Watt one day and I said, Watt, I cannot make this work. You know, the banknotes staying the same, everything, and I really love it. It's a wonderful job, but I don't think I can keep doing this. And he said, Tom, do you have any kind of oil income? And I said, no. And he asked some other kind of questions, and I said, no. And he said, I think you ought to sell out. Well, boy, that meant paying the bank back. There was that wasn't just a casual deal.
Right.
And so I said, oh, I don't know if I want to do that yet. And we talked for another minute. And he said, Tom, you need to sell out. He said, you can do more for the beef industry by cooking it than you can by raising it.
It's a very profound statement.
And so I got out of the cattle business. Uh-huh. and then went to the food business, which I really didn't know anything about.
And that was 1982, you sell out.
Yeah.
83, you opened this restaurant in tiny Buffalo Gap, Texas, which people had to understand, find it, because you just had the place in a barn on the highway. It wasn't like a big neon sign, here we are, come one, come all.
You know, if you were doing a restaurant right now, you'd go to a corner that had X number of cars going by, you'd have all those records. We just went out and there was a barn on the ranch, and I thought, this will make a good restaurant. You know, you couldn't even see it from the highway.
And Lisa, if I understand it, you kind of have a little business on a highway story in your past as well. Lisa Perini, she's just a fascinating woman. So she's at the age of 5. She's 5 years old when she thinks, you know what, I'm pretty grown up. I'm feeling pretty grown up. And she dreamed at the time of businesses and projects.
That's just how it's been, and Tom has regretted that ever since, because I've dreamed up a lot of projects. But I did, my first business, I had a watermelon stand on the side of the road. And so my grandfather and I had a partnership that he would grow the watermelons if I could sell them. And so we had quite a business venture. I kept all my cash in a cigar box in my little red wagon that I had to use to haul the watermelons to the highway. But it was the beginning of a big business, right?
It was.
It all started in watermelons.
Watermelons.
At some point, though, Tom Perini becomes your project. And Perini Restaurant.
It is a project.
Yeah.
Just, you know,
Right.
in all the ways that's been. It is a project.
I can understand that. So you come aboard, you're in the restaurant, I've seen pictures of you. You are not just running the business. You've been in the kitchen cooking a lot too.
I don't cook in the steakhouse. I love recipe development. If I ever get to retire and do whatever I want, I love creating recipes and coming up with new things to serve. I love to cook at home, but I definitely don't cook in the restaurant. But our hands are in everything that happens down there.
What
that's
do
for
you
sure.
cook at home?
He's
A lot of
Italian, so I
Italian food.
pretend to be Italian. So I like having the last name Perini because it sounds so Italian.
It does sound Italian. So you opened this restaurant, and my guess is, Tom, that running a restaurant, and you kind of alluded to this, running a restaurant was just as difficult, if not more so, as running a cattle ranch. It's not, you don't open the doors and come one, come all.
Well, you know, when I was catering, and, you pay your cowboys for that day. When you have a restaurant, you have employees that work 6 days or 7 days a week, and they expect to be paid. Now,
Sure. It
oh
kind of
my
works
gosh,
that way.
I didn't realize
Whether
that.
you sell anything or not.
Right.
So, the first years, they were tough. And I was very fortunate to have a mother that believed what I was doing. And so she'd help me on occasions, payroll mainly. And so but it just got a little bigger and a little bigger and a little bigger. And we were married. We have different times. She tells one story when we were.
Well, I'm sorry, was that times or generations? What was that?
Well, I'm considerably older than Lisa. So, with her coming aboard in this deal and making it work, it's been wonderful because she understands computers.
Yeah, right.
That's my job security, is I can turn on the computer.
I still use a yellow legal tab and a yellow pencil with an eraser on it.
1995, huge year, and I think if I remember right, this is really the year you say changed everything for you all.
We were invited to cook at the James Beard House in New York City, and that's from a food person, a chef or a food person. I'm not a chef, I'm a cook. That was a wonderful, wonderful thing to happen because we didn't have any stars. I mean, I didn't go to culinary school, any of that stuff. We just learned everything.
You're not a chef?
No, not a chef. And so by cooking for the James Beard House, it was a tremendous honor. And so we said yes, we would. And then I did some checking, and to get our crew to New York City and cook for 100 people would cost us basically $10,000.
Oh, you got the invitation, but you had to foot the bill.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so I thought, boy, how am I going to do this? And I talked to a good friend of mine who's in the advertising business, and I said, how can I afford to spend this kind of money? I mean, it was a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, you know, you're in the backyard and you're cooking these. He said, I have a piece of meat. And I said, oh, the tenderloins. And he said, yeah. And he said, I want you to cook 20 of those. And I did. And he came up and they had a crew that vacuum sealed them, cut them in half, packed them in boxes with all the stuff and trimming. And they sent 20 tenderloins out to publications.
Mm-hmm. You sent them to newsrooms?
Well,
Kind of, because we love food in newsrooms.
well, I should. And so we sent these out, and Parade magazine called and wanted to do a story, and several people called, and they said they'd do it, but I had to do a $10,000 ad, and you know that's. So we catered at James Beard very successfully. When the total, we've been back 7 times.
Oh, wow.
And
That's quite
actually
an honor.
gotten some awards and stuff.
That's fabulous.
So that happened, and during this same time period, Governor Bush asked us to start catering in Austin at his house, and so we've been invited to the James Beard, Governor Bush, and then one day, 2 months later, I got a call from the New York Times. And I was in our little ranch cook shack, and the dogs are barking, the train's going by, and a guy calls in and said he's a fax checker. And I thought he meant fax machine.
Of course.
You were fancy. You had
I
a
was
fax
fancy.
machine.
I had a fax machine. And he went on and was asking the questions, and I said, I'm sorry, what are you doing? And he said, Mr. Perini, do you have a 1-800 number? And I said, no. He said, well, call your little company and find out if you can get one. And he said, call me back tonight and leave a message.
Okay.
And I called our Taylor Telephone Co-op and said, can I get a 1-800 number? And they said, yes. They gave me a number. And I called back to the New York Times. And about 5 o'clock in the morning, a friend of mine that was raised in Abilene, that was living in New York, called and woke me up and said, Tom, have you seen the New York Times? It still takes 2 weeks to get the New York Times to Buffalo Gap. And I said, no, I haven't. And she read the article, and we had won the mail order gift of the year in 1995.
My gosh. That's a big deal.
Well, I'm going to tell you, it is a huge deal.
Okay.
And I said, what? And so what had happened, they had received this box from us trying to get a story.
Okay.
So when it went to the front desk of the New York Times, I didn't know there was a contest.
Contest for prettiest box, or?
And she
For the best mail order gift.
and she looked at this box and said, well, she said, this must be for the contest.
Okay.
And so 2,000 entries.
And that's how the Tenderloin started.
And so in this deal, they'd called back and wanted another tenderloin, and I thought, oh boy, you know, they know I'm a country boy, and they're going to have lunch on Thursday. And I sent them the tenderloin. Well, the tenderloin was to judge the top 200. And thanks, I did send it, and we won.
And you won it. So this kind of blessed mistake by the person who gave it off to the contest runner ended up being a huge opportunity.
I sent her children to college.
How quickly did the orders start coming? Yeah, I know. I know him well. I know. How quickly did the orders start coming in?
Quickly. But
were you ready for it?
Here's the kicker. We had no mail order company.
Yeah, we didn't have a mail order company.
Tom had just cooked tenderloins just for this project.
Yeah.
There was no mail order company.
So
there was quickly.
But the real part of the story is when an opportunity like that presents itself, you can either say, boy, thank you, it's wonderful to receive this award, or you can say, you know, maybe I'm going to develop a mail order company. And that's the route we took. And we went to 3 or 4 different, it has to be USDA inspected, and so to ship out of Texas. And so I went to several of them, and they turned me down, and one in Ballinger, Texas said, yeah, we'll try it.
Yeah.
And I think the first time we probably sold 500 the first year. And then, you know, a little more and a little more and a little more. And now it's become a major business.
Oh, How many do you sell a year now?
Well, there's 40 or 50,000, I think.
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
It's a big deal.
This mistake ended up being the thing that saved you. Save the business.
Well, and the rest, I mean, the steakhouse has followed. So everything has increased.
Yeah.
You know, in the old days when we first started and we were off the highway by 150 yards where people couldn't even see us. And all of a sudden, I mean, that was a negative. But people started coming out through word of mouth and stuff. And now it is a positive.
We like
Because people like to go out in country and they bring their children out. And so it's all of that has worked and it has been successful.
Yeah, you're a great storyteller, Tom. A great storyteller, and your decades of business and serving people has just paid off in some incredible friendships. And I know that if folks read the description of the program or saw the news release like we did in our newsroom, we promised everybody surprise guests at the kitchen table for a not to be missed.
You mean here?
Oh, why do you think all these other chairs are here?
Oh,
yes.
I thought I could move down to the different glasses of wine.
Well, we could do that. We could do that, by the way. Yes, but I think if I'm looking over at the door, right, there's somebody at the door. Let's see who's at the door. Come on in. You're welcome, friend.
It's Red
Stegall, ladies and gentlemen. Over the years, Tom and Lisa have made some amazing friendships.
So fun.
One of the lasting friendships has been made. You see here, Red Stegall, singer, songwriter, poet laureate, talent scout. You could ask Reba McEntire about that. And on top of that, you're just a genuinely good guy, Red Stegall.
And a good friend of Tom and Lisa.
Most importantly, let's drop that name all the time. The official cowboy poet of Texas. Thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm so proud to be here. I'm proud to be a part of this community and proud to be a part of this industry.
Yeah, you're one of the folks who are gathered here. You have a keen appreciation and knowledge of what cattle ranching is all about.
Well, I don't know how much I know about it, but I sure do like it.
What are the connections, I think, that, Tom talked about the chuck wagon and how that really kind of puts your name on the map as a good cook. The chuck wagon was so instrumental, Red, to the cowboy way of life decades ago.
Well, it was their commissary, it was their hospital, it was their bedroom, it was their home. And even in some of the ranches today where the wagon still goes out and stays for days on end, that's still their home. And personally, I can tell you that when you stay out at the wagon for a week or 2 weeks and you tear your tent down and you roll your bed, you feel like you're leaving home. It's a very unique experience. And even today, you say, when are you going to start branding? They say, well, the wagons are going to go out in April. So it's still an image of a place to stay.
Yeah.
And the chuck wagon cook, you never argue with a mule, a skunk, or a chuck wagon cook. And, Charles Goodnight believed that the trail herds and the cattle business moved on its stomach like an army. And so that cook is a very important element in the success of that endeavor, because if those cowboys aren't happy, they're not going to be able to do a good job.
That's right. How did your friendship start?
Well,
do you remember?
It's been so long ago, and we're at the age where we can't remember. But we've been friends for a long, long time. Yeah. We sure have, Deborah, and a lot of different things. I've been associated with the rehab center in Abilene and San Angelo and Ozona for well over 20 years. And so we've done a lot of things out at the steakhouse that benefit the people of the big country. So we've become closer during that time period, and just a lot of different places we go, and we've spent a lot of time at trail rides and cow camps where Tom was cooking, and I always enjoy it.
What's your best story about Red Stegall, Tom Perini?
He is very devoted. He was talking about the rehab. When there are things that he's passionate about, and I don't mean you're not passionate about everything, but he puts his heart into it. And with this rehab, he's been doing this, for all these years. And he's just a good man. And he has a lot of friends.
Kind of like you.
Kind of like me.
Kind of like. So I've listened to, you put together for your 40th anniversary, you put together a podcast, and different people come in and out
Yes.
to tell stories about the restaurant, the ranch, about you all. And if I remember right, the very time when you hit episode 1, the first voice you hear in the podcast, Red, is yours, and a quote that you begin with. Can you tell us about that?
Well, I got to give this credit to this to Sid Miller, our Texas Commissioner of Agriculture, because I stole it from him.
You stole it?
No, I stole
I
it
heard
from
that
him.
too, Tom. Yeah.
I'd heard it before.
Maybe I'll take back what I said.
But Sid really talks about this all the time. When he says, every once in a while you'll need an attorney, every once in a while you'll need a doctor, but 3 times a day, 7 days a week, you need a farmer and a rancher. And it is, our agricultural community is our #1 asset. And our ability to individually own land and utilize it while we're here and then pass it on to future generations is one of the great treasures of our country. And you've heard me say this too, that I believe with all my heart that private ownership of land is the single most important element in the progress and security of a free and independent society.
Good, I agree.
When I listen to you, it's almost like you liken that and the agricultural business and the food that's produced on these lands, you equate it in some ways to national security.
Well,
Am I going too far with that?
No, but if you think about this, it wouldn't make any difference how vast our armed forces are, how fast our technology is, how tall our buildings are, how comfortable our cars are, and how fast them trucks will run. If we can't feed ourselves, none of the rest of that matters. And if we have to depend on importing all of our food stuff from outside our borders, no one will ever have to fire a shot down any street in America to conquer us. All they have to do is conquer the country that we're getting our food supply from. So our #1 asset in our entire society is our agricultural community.
Good.
That's a profound statement. And Tom, you, through your work as I'd love to say this on the podcast you hear, who was it? Somebody, you don't call yourself a chef, you call yourself a cowboy cook. Who said?
Stephen Piles.
Stephen Piles. Yeah.
I have a hard time with that word. But I'm not a chef.
You said it 1 syllable right there. That was good.
I had it written on my hand.
So, but through your restaurant, Tom, and the love of the food that you and Lisa produce, and your wholehearted respect for the ranching industry, you have been able to take the message of Texas beef into lands far away, not just around the great state and the great country, but to other places as well. And you've had some folks who've kind of helped you tell that story on a worldwide stage, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think there might be a couple who are here. Can we see if somebody's at the door?
Let's see who's coming in.
Somebody at the door? Oh, yeah, let's see who's at the door.
That's a heck of a loud
Who could it
Boy,
be?
that is.
I think I heard somebody at the door. Should
Tom,
I
does
go
this
check?
make you nervous?
It does make me.
It makes me nervous when they're not coming in.
Well, I'll have a little drink on this.
Oh, it's John
Ladies
Means.
and gentlemen, John Means and John Dudley stepping up to the table right now. I like to call them the Johns, but a more appropriate,
I didn't
more
know you-
appropriate introduction. John Means, 4th generation rancher and past president of the Texas and Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association, fellow rancher and former director of the National Cattlemen's Association, John Dudley. Welcome to both of you all.
Thank you.
Glad you're here at the table.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, why'd you pick these guys to be with you today, Tom?
They're dear friends.
They are dear friends, yes.
There might have been a little bribe.
So we were just talking about how through the restaurant and through Tom and Lisa's work with the beef industry, that they've really been able to spread the message across the globe about the importance of Texas beef and how good it is. And I know that you all both have been instrumental in helping them carry that message. I know one of you all took them to Japan. Which one of the Johns? I get you confused.
Well, we've been.
Is that you, John Means? Okay.
And it was an exciting trip, to say the least. But Tom, I'm going to give credit to, and Lisa, for introducing our good, wholesome, fresh Texas beef to Japan. And it's a kind of a long story, but they sent their chuck wagon over there along with briskets, mesquite wood, the whole deal, set it up. And a side story to that nobody knows, after they got it set up, I think it was the first night, Tom asked them, what are we going to do with all this? I mean, it's all their pots, their pans, their knives, forks, everything. He said, what are we going to do with this? Where are we going to put this? And they said, it was set up in the parking lot of a grocery store. And they said, oh, it'll be just fine here. Not to worry. So they left everything set up just exactly as it was. Sure enough, the next morning, it's perfect. So, but it was a fascinating trip. And I remember one grocery store we were in, there were like 27 butchers. And we were there the first time that they introduced American beef, Texas meat, over there, and those butchers were working tirelessly, and they could not keep the counter space full. These people were coming around in baskets, just throwing it in and going to the front to pay. It was awesome to see that, and I think that's what primarily maybe started the demand for our wonderful beef in Japan.
So
I give these two credit.
yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Well, so, when we did this, we took Texas to Japan. I mean, when you unload a chuck wagon in Japan,
Right.
that gets their attention.
Were people coming to take pictures with it?
There were. And when we had all these cowboys with us and hats and stuff, and they were completely blown away. But they were getting beef actually frozen from Australia, grass-fed. And so I think we had 24 days aged by the time we got the prime ribs from Texas to Japan on a boat, packed in ice. So it had good age to it. It was fresh, and boy, did they love it. And so we just had all these people around our camp, and we're eating the beef, and I don't think we realized how important it was, but all of a sudden they started buying U.S. beef.
So how much of that business came back to Texas? I'm curious.
You mean from Japan?
From Japan, yeah. Did all of a sudden they start wanting to know, what ranch can I order my beef from in the state of Texas?
I don't remember that, how all that worked. I was just thrilled to see U.S. beef,
Yeah.
and this was all from the Texas Panhandle, be sold in Japan.
Yeah.
And it's made a difference.
So first you conquered Japan,
Yes.
and then you decided what you're going to conquer Poland and Russia a few years later?
Yes.
Was that your idea, Dudley?
I tell you what, the trip to Russia was a real eye-opener. And as we went along, they had it staged so brilliantly well. Tom was the rock star here. Tom was on television here. Tom was in front of chefs here. And probably 30 or 40 or 50 chefs were engaged in the whole. It was a 3 or 4 or 5 day episode. And by the time, they would approach, for example, the Perini tenderloin, they would approach that kind of cautiously. It didn't look a thing like they had ever seen in their life. And they would kind of back away and kind of like this. And Tom would say, I just invite you to have a bite of this. And by the time it was over, it was like, oh, could we have some more of that, please?
Yeah.
Could we just have a little more of that tenderloin? It was a great trip and really, really interesting, and stirred up, Tom and Lisa stirred up a lot of energy there in Russia.
Yeah.
And, all for American beef. It was great.
And I think it just speaks volumes about the importance of cattle ranching and the importance of what these families are doing. But, I look at you all. Not her. I look at you all, and there's some age.
What?
Did I say that?
What kind of deal is this?
I don't know what that is.
There's some experience.
You told us you were not going to bring that up.
I'm the youngest.
Okay, thank you. Well, but how do you, and you all come from family, your families have been arranging generations. How do you keep it going? It's tough. You just heard Tom say, hey, I wasn't very good at it, so I went into the restaurant business to sell it. But how do you keep it a calling for younger generations, and how do you nurture this love?
Well, I tell you what, we're all pretty good at what we do. Everybody in this room is good at what they do as far as raising cattle, raising great product. But in the ranching business, in these days and times, I think mostly, I think I wouldn't get too many arguments. Deborah, you have to do some things that maybe you didn't used to think you would do. For example, maybe now hunting has to be a part of your organization. Mm-hmm. Maybe, tourism has to be part of it. Maybe green energy has to be part of it. So you just you try to do what protects the land and protects what you're doing, but also adding back the things you need to do to make the thing work.
It's kind of like side hustles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
I know what that is.
I know. What did you say?
It's kind of like, you have your main job, the main thing that you're doing, but you also need to have, a little side hustle to help you bring in a little extra bacon.
I'm going to have to write that down.
So the main thing they're doing is ranging, but to help pay the bills, it's sounding like that you got to bring a little hunting, a little tourism. Right. Is that right? Okay, yes, John Means, you're going to correct me here, I think.
To John's point, I think part of that, you have to have a great desire and a love in your heart for what we do, because it's all not financial. And there's something about just seeing grass, seeing cows, seeing horses, seeing what you do on a daily basis, and you can get up in many days, if you want to, you can go to bed that night and say, I got that done. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a lot of self-gratification for that. And it's just it's a wonderful lifestyle and really a way of life. Mm-hmm. It has to be in your heart.
Yeah, it does. And I think, when you write about it, Red, there is and you talked about this too, waking up under the stars in the tent. And there is, I don't know, I'm kind of a romantic, but I mean, you see it as hard work, but there is a bit of romanticism in there as well. Yes, no? No? Okay, no.
there is there is some romanticism about it. Uh-huh. And it's being part of nature, being a part of the physical world around you, understanding the cycles of life. I've always found that people who grow up in an agricultural environment are better grounded than folks who don't.
Sure.
Because they understand the full circles of life, and they're not subject to being shocked by something that doesn't agree with what they want to do today, or disturbs their lifestyle of today. Yeah. So they learn to adapt. They learn that death is part of the cycle of life, and it's a great way of life, but it also has to be a business these days.
And I think, John Means, we don't need to get confused with it. Today's ranching is a lot like what happens on Yellowstone, right?
I knew I was going to get trapped on that. I can leave out part of it.
You guys will listen to the podcast and you'll find out more about that. So I'm looking at this table, Lisa.
Yes.
I think you and I are just a tad bit outnumbered.
We need more women in ranching.
I think we need more women in ranching. I think we need more women at the table right now. What do you think? Yes. And I think there might... Let's see who's at the door. Oh my gosh. Talk about a tireless champion of the meat industry. Look who we have here. We have with us, please welcome Molly McAdams.
Hello there, kiddo. How are you?
Leading the Texas Beef Council as Executive Vice President, a woman focused on beef through her career because it is her personal protein of choice, and with a deep respect and love for the ranching profession and lifestyle. Molly, we needed to balance it out here. So,
do you want to bring your chair over here?
No, she needs a seat at the head of the table. That's what she needs. Molly, thank you. Thank you so much for coming in and being with us here.
Of course, thank you for having
me. So I'll have a true confession here. I know the Perinis, of course. I know Red and Gail Stiegel. Through Tom, I have met John Means and his wife, and John Dunley and his wife. Oh yes, cheers. Oh yeah, cheers. Yes.
Well, I don't want to be left out.
No, I don't leave you out. I don't leave y'all out.
Yeah, we love it.
Oh, we love it. But I didn't know much about you, Molly McAdams. So I thought, well, I'm going to meet this woman. I'm going to have wine with this woman. Let me kind kind of, what do I do to know her? Well, I go to Google, of course.
Oh, Lord.
Yes, okay. and the first thing that pops up, it is a video of you from 2020.
Okay.
All right.
I might be able to remember it.
Okay.
I may be able to remember 2020.
All right. It was, so much happened in 2020.
Yes.
So much happened. But this is how she introduces herself.
Oh, Lord.
It's a video. I'm Dr. Molly McAdams. I'm a rancher. I'm a steward of the land. I'm also a PhD level scientist, a businesswoman, and I'm also the mother of a teenage athlete. My family's Texas Ranch has operated and provided beef to American families since the 1830s. It was a beautiful statement, but what I saw, as another one, I saw this woman standing up. I don't know who you were talking to. I think it was some kind of federal panel. I don't know. But what I saw there, Molly, was a woman standing up, speaking your truth, speaking truth to power. And I saw a woman so confident in who she is and what she believed and what she could do that I had to wonder, and you know her.
I do know her. I do.
This confidence that you have, what is that rooted in?
Well, I think some people call it bossy. So I'm going to say that. So I hear there's some clapping right over here. Might have been my husband. Yes, some people call it bossy. But I think that, I grew up around, there were 3 girls, and then my brother was the youngest. And my dad was a horse vet. So we grew up where my dad had all 3 of us girls doing everything. And so you end up I think in agriculture, you do build confidence because, like all of us, you're in dangerous situations every day. And that was certainly our case around racehorses and horses in general. You don't know what they're gonna do. But my dad had us bailing right in there just like everybody else, including the people that worked for him and my brother. And I never doubted I could do something. And it's got to come from that.
Good
I don't know where it comes
Good
from,
answer.
y'all. I mean, part of it's genetic, I suppose, but I don't know.
It's terrific.
Yeah.
It's terrific. On her LinkedIn page, because I looked you up.
Golly dang.
No, I'm serious.
I got to be more careful about my public persona.
No, it's good. It's good. I'm thrilled to be part of research, promotion, and education for my favorite protein, beef, of course, on behalf of proud cattlemen and cattlewomen who steward land and livestock alike in the great state of Texas. And I want to, how big is the influence of cattlewomen?
Oh, well, it's huge. The first woman that I worked for at the Texas Beef Council, larger than life, you all know Ann Anderson. And I'll tell you one thing that Ann told me that I thought was funny at the time, but she said, you have to remember that the last person that whispers in the cattleman's ear is a cattlewoman before they lay their head down at night. And I was like, there's some truth.
What?
I like that. I'm sorry, say that again. Tom Perini didn't hear.
Tom,
Yeah, I did. I did.
But I mean, joking aside, and not to diminish the influence at all of women in our industry, in our industry, women work right alongside with men, and in so many different ways, but also in powerful and influential ways. Lisa, I remember when you started working with Tom, and no offense, Tom, but Lisa brought some order. Lisa, I mean, and the marketing, and
I think they call it bossy.
that is exactly what it was.
I think you do too.
Yes. But just the yin and the yang, but the influence of women on our industry has always been very, very powerful. And what I think about when I think of women in ranching is, because we don't live where it's real windy. Some of y'all do. It's windier than our neck of the woods. All I can think of is having that long hair and working outside with the wind blowing all the time, and how much that would have driven me crazy. Right? I mean, I think back about what did ancestors do? And how hard was it for them? And they're wearing these dresses, slogging through a swamp or low country or mountains, whatever it was. So I think our industry is rooted in tough women.
Yeah.
I really do.
For sure.
And still are.
And I think kind of what you're describing is representation, right? We have to see other people doing things and realize, I can aspire to that. How would you describe your friend, Molly?
Exactly the same, not bossy at all, but someone who is ready to lead and to lead the industry, and that's so important.
That's what she's doing.
What is your goal as Executive Vice President for the Texas Beef Council?
I have the best job in the world. I truly do. It is the best job because I get to work. I work with cattle producers. We have a volunteer board. You two have been on our board. Worked a lot with Tom in my past. But I work on behalf of cattle producers, all of you, and my job is to get to spread the good word about everything that's great about beef directly to consumers. And we have a wonderful team and a wonderful staff that helps us do it, and then we have all these wonderful partners that help us amplify that message.
And some of the consumers are restaurants. I mean, we see it with Tom. You start a restaurant, and there's such a ripple effect that benefits the economy, that improves people's livelihoods, gives them a paycheck.
Yes.
And you've done a little research into just how much money is spent.
Oh yeah. Well, it's a $100 billion industry in Texas. The restaurant industry in Texas is now a $100 billion industry.
That's incredible.
It is incredible. And then I was thinking about how can it be that big? Well, we live in a town of about 400, and there's 3 restaurants in our little town. It's kind of a crossroads, but we have a barbecue restaurant, a Mexican restaurant, and the other one's not really a restaurant. It's kind of an ice house, but they sell burgers. So restaurants permeate even the smallest of towns.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just an enormous industry that employs so many people. It's the largest employment sector in the state of Texas.
And you all, Lisa, I mean, yeah, we pay for your beef, but you have to get your beef somewhere.
Sure, and it is, and you know, back to that real quick on employees, again, every restaurant is struggling, so we've been hit harder right now than ever with not having employees. But what is exciting is serving beef in our restaurant, and in last year, 2023, we purchased almost 200,000 pounds of beef. Wow.
That's a lot of beef.
That is lovely.
It blew our minds when we prepared that calculation for this talk, because that's a lot.
That's a lot, yep.
Yeah.
But
For
with
one restaurant.
it takes a rancher in order for us to have beef, and so that's why we feel so driven together.
Yeah.
So your restaurant, it's been around for 40 years. We've all eaten there, right? Have you ever wondered, why isn't there one in Fort Worth? Why haven't you spread out? Why do we all have to keep going to Buffalo Gap? I mean, nothing wrong with Buffalo Gap.
That is the reason.
I mean, why?
No.
I mean, surely you've had offers to, hey, we'll help you open up a restaurant elsewhere.
We had offers to franchise, and we sat down when we first got married, and we talked about several things, but this was very important.
It's good to talk about things before marriage.
Before you get married. And we made the decision that we did not want to franchise, that we wanted the restaurant to be the best it could be for where it is. And so what's happened now, we're a destination restaurant and people are driving to us.
And it's what it is because of where it is.
True.
We don't think it would be the same if there was one on I-35 between Austin and San
And
Antonio.
we don't want one on I-35.
Yeah.
No, Buc-ee's is fine on I-35.
So it's been good.
It has. And Molly, part of your job too is to spread the message of Texas beef around the country. And to do that, I mean, you rely on people to help tell a good story about it. And I understand you call on friends for favors when an opportunity presents itself. And you recently did that with one member here gathered around our table.
Well, I've called on all of these guys for favors. So I'm a big believer in expanding possibilities and using your friends to help you do that.
Right.
But yes, it was a wonderful favor that we asked of Red, and it was to do a voiceover for a commercial that we ran during the National Finals Rodeo. Because I knew that the commercial needed to have the feel of a rancher and someone of the Western lifestyle. It was a partnership between Oklahoma, Texas, and Nebraska. So we don't really count Nebraska as Western, I suppose, but we're gonna throw them into that bundle. But that lifestyle, and I couldn't think of a better voice than Red. And what was awesome about it is, you know, I reached out to him via email, and pretty soon I get a call. He said, well, kid, when do you need it?
Well, kid, did you like that?
Kid, I did like it. Yeah, I'm almost 60, so I was like, oh, I'll take that. Well, kid, when do you need it? I said, oh, whenever you can get around to it. How about this afternoon? And I was like, okay, I'll take it this afternoon. Sure enough, by the afternoon, I think we had 8 takes on the voiceover for the commercial, and that's all we needed.
That's all you need. 8 takes, that many, Red. I'm surprised. Man of your experience and talent, I've seen 1 take.
He told me he wanted me to have a variety to choose, and so I appreciated that professionalism. It was awesome.
Do you remember what you said in the commercial?
I was deeply honored to do that. I want to interject something here.
Please.
You ask a question about what made what they do so unique.
Yes.
When you go out to Buffalo Gap, to the Perini Steakhouse, it's a dining experience. It's not just the food, but the food is extremely important. It's always good quality, it's always hot, it's always ready to eat and very tasty. But the atmosphere is overwhelming. And all the beautiful trees and the landscaping, you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
You are out in the country, but you're not.
You are in the middle of nowhere.
You're not in the wilderness. But you're at Buffalo Gap, Texas, and it really has a ring and a romance to it that is, it's very appealing to almost anybody who ever tries it, and they want to go back the second time.
Thank you very much.
And if you tried to move that somewhere else, it would lose part of that character.
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
Tom, it's so authentic. How do you do that?
Well, it is. I don't do it. It is authentic.
It's one of your
That's where
best
you get in
points.
trouble is when you try to make it authentic.
Exactly. And I'm just curious, I know my husband and I live in Fort Worth, and we'll go to Abilene and Buffalo Gap. And when we go to Perinis Ranch, yes, the food is great. Lisa's wine list, if you haven't gotten it, is awesome too. Fabulous pairing. But it is such a very big deal. It's when I see you and Lisa walking through the restaurant. There is a celebrity status that comes with the two of you. There is. I mean, look at you. You're known in Japan and Poland and Russia.
Well, not by name.
So, I mean, do you enjoy that? Is it part of what you do? You like being with people, obviously.
Well, you have to like people.
Yes.
And and the celebrity part of it is, I don't know how to handle that very well, but it's part of it. And when people would like to have their picture taken or sign a cookbook or whatever, that's just the nicest compliment they can give you. And that's what we just try to do it right.
You realize,
Right?
Tom, though,
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And if they come back again, that's even better.
and you realize that when people ask you for that picture, they want that picture of you all, the cowboy, the people behind the name. You represent everybody in this room. When you do that, you are an ambassador and a spokesperson, and you have people wanting more. So everybody else in the room.
Now that might scare me a little.
But thank you all. I know I could ask lots of questions. I think the conversation go on and
Tom
on.
has to tell us one story about what a great job you did today.
Oh, you have a story about my great job? Oh,
Well,
thank you.
And you've never heard this, but with Deborah doing this job, you don't say, Deborah, I'm going to take you out for a chicken breast. Just so you understand that.
Let's take her out for a steak. Let's take her out for a steak.
But you don't say, I'm taking you out for a chicken breast.
You heard that, Steve Lamb, right? Well, thank you all very much. You've been extraordinary. I've enjoyed this conversation. All of this, of course, started with Tom Perini realizing I can't be a cattle rancher, but I can be a cowboy cook.
I'm still in the cattle business.
Yes, you're still in the cattle business. A cowboy cook, and then Lisa coming and really helping the business grow. So congratulations to your 40 years and many more.
And the last thing, we want to make a toast to everybody in this room in the cattle business, because we would not be sitting up here if it were not for you. Hear, hear.
Cheers.
Thank you. Oh, yes, thank you. I can finally, my job, I'm finally at the end.
That's fun.
And all of you all too, I want you to know that if you haven't picked up a copy, Tom and Lisa wrote a book, Perini Ranch Steakhouse, Buffalo Gap, Texas, celebrating 40 years with Tom and Lisa, and you have a little special something for the people in the room, I understand.
There's some books scattered around. Please help yourself. And the podcast is Meet Me at the Wagon.
Yes.
And you can, wherever you download your podcast, as they say.
Exactly. And then
if you need help, call us. We'll figure it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you need a reservation at the restaurant and it's booked, what do we do?
Call Tom.
Pray. I would tell you to pray.
4 months in advance.
Yes, thank you all so much. Thank you all for being with us in this conversation, and good luck with the rest of your convention.
Yes.
Any other final thoughts, gentlemen? Ma'am?
All good.
You want to finish your glass of wine? We'll do that backstage.
We'll do it backstage. There you go. Congratulations, y'all.
Somebody got that. Thank you.
Thank you.